Hey, everybody, this is Kenny. Welcome back to the Leading from the Middle podcast. This is the podcast for middle managers who want to improve their results, develop themselves, and develop their team. Today, I got to talk to the CEO of Particle 41, Ben Johnson. And Ben got into so many things, but particularly team productivity and how do you use goal setting to really drive productivity on teams. He talked a lot about how technology and great technology ties in with great productivity. You don't want to miss this. Let's get at it. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Leading from the Middle podcast. This is the podcast for middle managers who want to develop themselves, develop their teams, and improve their results. And I have someone that has been successful for a long time and has shown some great results, who's willing to give some time today to drop some advice and some knowledge on you from his journey and his walk. I want to introduce Ben Johnson. He's the CEO and founder of Particle 41. Ben, it is great to have you on the podcast. How you doing?
It's so great to be here. I'm doing great.
Awesome. So I want to start here. What is Particle 41 and where did that name come from?
Sure. Thank you for asking. So Particle 41 is a software development consultancy. We're about 100 people all over the globe. So we have folks in US, offshore, near shore, and we just love building teams for companies. The name Particle 41, the 41st element of the periodic table is I'm not going to pronounce it just right. Nimbonium is what I always say. I think it's nimbium or something like this, right?
Right.
It's if you're like me and you're a child of the 80s, you'll remember this pop metal anodized jewelry that kind of came in a rainbow color.
Yes.
And in the metallurgical process, like essentially in a foundry where they mold metal, they will add small amounts of this element to steel that make it stronger and also give it an attractive sheen. So we really feel like we're partnering with folks. We want to be their tech partner. We want to make their business stronger. We want to help them move faster, and hopefully their products will look a little better and just come together. And so we use that foundry concept as a metaphor for what we do.
Wow. That is so well thought out. And yes, I remember those very well from the 80s, being also part of the MTV generation back then.
Right. When it actually had music on it. Yeah.
Exactly. Music still on MTV. What a concept, right? That is so awesome. So I'm really curious as to what prompted you to go into this field. Could you talk a little bit about your journey and maybe some of your early career that led you to want to do this?
Sure. So out of college, one of my first jobs was to build an online travel agency. So imagine back before it was just trivial to go online and say, hey, I want to go from here to here and get some airline tickets. You used to have to call a travel agent, and travel agent would do all that work for you. And so back in 2000, we started a brand called One Travel. The brands are still around today, but it's changed hands a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing all the hard work. This was before cloud technology existed. So we had to rack and stack our own servers. I just learned so much in the 7 years. We grew it to a $70 million travel business.
Wow.
And it was a fantastic run. And from there, I started a travel marketing company. Cool thing about a travel marketing company is the total revenue of the business might be 30 million bucks. But you get to spend a lot of that in digital advertising technology, or we call it ad tech, because you're trying to take data that you can collect from the user visiting the different sites where your ads are on and try to target them with the right advertiser. And so we were able to raise 2 rounds of 15 million, another 10 million, and took a go at transforming that into a full-fledged media company with not only the ad business, but also some online properties that we owned. And that kind of ran its course. And I did the same thing in finance. So I created a vertical ad network, very similar type of company with similar technology, but in finance, where we could see kind of what stocks you might be reading about, and then know what kind of investor you were, and then target you with different financial products that were out in the space. But my wife and I, we had our third kid, and I wanted to stop traveling back and forth to New York quite as much as I was. So I started Particle 41, really out of a desire, hearing from my network that they really needed high functioning, high quality teams. And they liked what I had done in my previous roles at other companies. And so we started Particle 41 really because myself and my partner, we were both CTOs in our own right, and had just established sometimes it's about the little things. It's about how you do certain things where you can really create efficiency in your team. And then I was building that consulting business, and a friend of mine on a bet started telling me about legal services. And he bet me that my consulting company was not in good standing with the Secretary of State.
Oh.
And so I went to look it up, and sure enough, I didn't know anything about legal services. And so I started talking to him more, and he found a B2B niche in the legal services space where law firms and large enterprises were having trouble with a lot of the paperwork involved in keeping a company in compliance. And so we created a platform for that. That platform integrated with Stripe, Yahoo Small Business, and a number of other brands. And it really became an arms dealer for a set of automation around legal services. And we ended up selling to LegalZoom in 3 years.
Wow.
So it was kind of a rapid startup story. We raised $2 million in seed funding, but were able to exit right at the 3-year mark. And then I stayed on with LegalZoom for about 4 years, just to do a proper acqui-hire and kind of fulfill my promise in the acquisition. And meanwhile, my consulting company continued to grow, and so we continue to work on a lot of clients. And yeah, that's kind of the little story here. What brings me to today?
Amazing! What an amazing journey. And Ben, I love this combination that I've read about you that you have, and I really want to get a lot more into this, because a lot of it has to do in the tech space, but you are so big on the people space as well. And you talk about personal productivity being kind of a foundation of what you want to help drive. So talking to the leaders that I try to speak to as often as I can, tell us a little bit about what you mean by that, and how what you do really ties into personal productivity and having leaders and teams be more productive.
Yeah, sure. So in software development, it's not very much different in the way that it's measured as like a restaurant or a call center or something like this would be. So if you think about, if I'm a developer on a team, every task that I complete, we call them stories. So it might be, put a button on this page, or add some copy here, or make this work like this. We represent those in these tasks, and it's software managed. So you have this task list, right? You have a work list, and you're measured by velocity. So that's a number of work units. We just call it a fancy name. We call it velocity. And so my reward for doing a perfect, and then we kind of time box it. So we say, how much work can we get done? How much velocity can we have in a 2-week iteration? So my reward for, as a developer, for executing a 2-week sprint perfectly is another 2-week sprint. Just like I have a restaurant, I execute a perfect service. What's my reward? I get to do another service, right? I live to fight another day. And so how do we make that, how do we break up that monotony, right? And help our teams maintain productivity while respecting work-life balance and all of that. And so there's a couple of frameworks that have really helped me with this. One is OKRs. So OKRs are objective key results, and it's just a form of measurable goal setting where, we could I'll even use the fitness metaphor, right? You can have this goal to lose some pounds. It's January, so everybody's probably thinking about this.
Yes.
You can have this goal to lose some pounds, But if you're not doing something every day, so my OKR might be to lose 15 pounds, but I'm going to say that's my objective. And the great thing about that objective is it's measurable, right? I step on the scale and I know if I'm progressing or not progressing.
Mm-hmm.
But what I might say is that so that's my objective. A key result of that might be that I have a 45-minute workout each day, right? So now I know that I'm progressing. I have a plan. And so as a middle manager, if you're setting an OKR, it's so clear how your teams can then cascade their goal to help fulfill the objective above them.
Mm-hmm.
So that form of goal setting is really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say that in addition to that, some form of standard operating procedure or guidebook. This is what done means in software development. We have this idea of definition of done. And that definition of done is really important so that standard operating procedures are in place and we're not fudging standards as we go. So I think with those two things, some form of goal setting like OKRs, and I'm not making that up. There's a whole book, Measure What Matters, that is totally referable here. And then making sure that SOPs are in place and understood by the team and frequently reviewed and improved. So you're reducing the amount of improvising that needs to take place.
Mm-hmm.
And now you don't have to task out your team. One of the most exhausting things I found as a leader is to have to sit down with somebody and help them make their to-do list. We need that to-do list to be created by the human being. Then you're a micromanager and you don't like that and they don't like that. Now you're having to spend too much time and you're not getting a return on investment for the time you're spending. So for brevity's sake, I think setting goals and making sure standards are in place is like just 101 to being a good leader.
That's fantastic. And and I got to say, that's the first that I heard OKR. I think that that is really such a foundation to come back to. And just setting your goals and then having the standard operating procedures combined in there, I think are fantastic. It seems to me like you've had a lot of success in the marriage between tech and leadership. On the leadership side, what's a couple of things that you do every day with your teams that you really, really enjoy? I just now heard one thing I know you don't enjoy, and that's writing someone else's goals. What are some things that you really enjoy seeing leaders accomplish because you've given them this guidance every day?
Yeah, so when they're really bought into the mission and they're coming up with ideas, how could we get to that next plateau of revenue, or how could we get to that next set of efficiency? And they're bringing up ideas and they're helping you implement those. When they know what your goal is and what the purpose is, and I call it being on mission. When we know what our mission is, and then everyone's kind of collaborating together with that. One of the things we did last week, this is completely, I didn't ask them to do this. This was something that the team put together on their own, is they did a lunch and learn. So somebody put together a quick deck. In restaurant, this could be somebody, figured out how to cook a special thing or figured out a new way of doing something that could be impressive for an event coming up or whatever. As a lunch and learn, it was a coordinated training session that they did for each other over a problem. And then they brought that. And so they scheduled a meeting, everybody could come and learn from this other person's experience. And experience, if you think about it inside of a company, is and should be the currency. Because if we always have managers be managers and there's this hierarchy and it's so fixed that somebody who knows something that maybe they brought in from another company, even if they're a dishwasher, but they know how something transpired at a different company, we should hear them because they may have more experience in that particular situation. Mm-hmm. And so the lunch and learn was a way of seeing that, where an individual contributor could rise to the status of trainer on this certain topic. And the great thing is now, anytime somebody has a problem or a question about those topics, they're going to go back and refer to that person. And so that's what I mean by expertise as currency. And so
Mm,
if you learn something
mm,
and you bring that into your team,
mm.
you're going to get a type of clout that's so important because you took the time to learn it.
Boy, I love that. Expertise as currency. I love that. A couple of quick things I don't want to let go from. That was an amazing story, and I love how you broke that down. But I want to thank you first for bringing that to a restaurant or retail level. It makes perfect sense. Every step that you made. But I also don't want to lose this for leaders that'll be listening to this. Your team took this initiative without you to put this whole thing together. That had to make you feel great. I think those are sometimes the even truer marks of a great leader when teams start to take initiatives like they just did. So kudos to you, and that's fantastic. So you're obviously have built something there where folks aren't afraid also to take chances, make mistakes, but knowing that you're going to have their back. And I would assume that they probably told you everything after they had it all planned. Hey, by the way, Ben, we're doing this. Um, I think that is fantastic, but the steps of what you talked about was just golden. Um, I've got just two more questions for you. This has been amazing, by the way, and just really looking at things from a different perspective. I know for me, and it'll be for the audience. I can't let you go. We're very early in 2023. Can't let you go without getting some advice from you on what do you see coming down the horizon that's going to be a watch out for leaders this coming year. Is it staffing? Is it quiet quitting? What's some of these things that in your world you've seen you're seeing starting to trend up now that leaders really need to be heightened awareness for this coming year? What's maybe one or two things that you would advise us on?
Yeah, there's so many different ways I could go with that question because as a CEO, I'm obviously looking at kind of the macroeconomic space.
Hmm.
We're hearing about a lot of layoffs on the news. I think we're in a little bit of a trend,
Hmm.
at least in tech, where we're going to see some layoffs, and
Yes.
you don't want to hurt your brand when you do layoffs, so you kind of do them at the same time everybody else does them. So
Mm,
I think you're seeing that it's kind of in fashion, or the fad is to cut. We're also in a unique financial situation where I don't know that even myself, I can remember a time, maybe when I was in elementary school, where the interest rate was this high.
mm,
So fundamentally, the market has gone through a serious shift,
mhm,
and of course, everybody's felt in the inflationary thing. So it is time to tighten up. It is time to be careful, just as leaders, with making decisions that involve expending capital, or you want to preserve your margin as leaders.
mhm,
And then as middle managers, you need to know that that is a reality, that the business is going to have to watch their bottom line very, very closely,
mhm.
or nobody will have a job in that business. So just be empathetic with your senior management and your company and your corporate structure, that they're trying to figure out how to adapt to a market that's very different than anything we've experienced within the last while. I do think the fundamentals of the economy are firm. And so it's not a time to be afraid, or but it is a time to be awake, and really aware that it's really focusing on profitability and money is a good thing to be doing.
Mm.
Um, and for us as people, staying away from debt, focusing on what are my core needs, and just being generally conservative financially is going to be an important time this year.
Mhm,
We're also seeing the very beginning of the emergence of AI. And so things people used to get paid for,
mhm,
like data entry, like writing articles, like repetitive tasks, are going to be rapidly, so where our parents and our parents' peers felt a lot of the automation from the Industrial Revolution, and a lot of them were displaced by the digital age because they didn't adapt to those digital skills. They had more hard skills. You're going to see another wave of that. And so it's just something to keep aware of. We're at the very beginning of where, where certain jobs that maybe we were able to eke out a living are not going to be there. And then as middle managers, we should be mindful of, hey, there's these things that might help us to save money by using those new automations. Yeah. So yes, the one thing we have in life has changed. That is the one constant that will always be there. So if you're not adapting, you're dying. And so I think that's true now more than ever.
Yeah. Fantastic advice. And I think that even, I've spoken to some folks that of recent, their stores in the past have been very, very busy, and it's not so much now. And they're struggling to adapt to that. Do I replace someone that just resigned? And I love everything you said in terms of, basically tightening your belt, and really watching every penny, because that's what, the higher ups are going to be looking for. Ben, this has been fantastic, but now I got to ask you a very, very serious question. You brought up MTV, so I got to hear what was your go-to band back then in the 80s? Who made the best videos and who put on the best concerts?
Oh man, I was a sucker for the new wave stuff, Depeche Mode, The Cure. I was a sucker for that genre of music. Now I feel like what classical music was for me when I was sitting in the backseat of my parents' car, now like a lo-fi electronic music is what I always have on, and the kids are like, "Oh, Dad, please change it to something else," So yeah, I'm just kind of a electronic music fan, and love that. Love some of that new wave alternative music.
Yeah, you named a couple of great groups there. Wow, Depeche Mode, they very, very innovative in their day. I think they're still good. I think they're still out there touring, and they're still good. I was a little bit more of a Duran Duran type guy,
Sure.
Yeah. And I loved when rap music was, starting to come up back then, because it was a lot of fun.
I'm probably revealing too much, but Christian rap has gotten quite good. Back then it wasn't so much, but I would say if you're tired of rap music and some of the content, and it's kind of burning your ears, the Christian rap music has come a long way.
It really has. It really has, and we're constantly searching for stuff that's safe to put on in the car with our kids.
Right.
So, and that's really, and it's really good. That's a great point. Ben, this has been awesome. I really look forward to connecting with you again and possibly having you back on, especially as we go through this year. And everything that you talked about from your perspective was just so dead on. Thank you so much for making it relevant for all of us. And God bless you, man. Continued success in everything you're doing. And thank you so much for giving us this time today.
Oh yeah, and thank you for your enthusiasm and the quality of your questions. I really enjoy participating. I'd be happy to do anything I can help. Hope this year is great for your audience.
Thank you, and thank you for saying that. It's on tape. I'm going to take you up on that. So folks, we're going to leave it here. This has been the Leading from the Middle podcast with Kenny and Ben, and we will talk to you real soon.